The Washington Commanders fell to the Miami Dolphins to go to 0-2 in the preseason. That's certainly interesting, but the important part is that quarterback Jayden Daniels looks more and more solid with every meaningful rep he gets. That and more coming up on this postcast episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into today's postcast episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, David Harrison, credential member of the media here in Miami, covering your Washington Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. Here with you every Monday through Friday, and obviously the occasional Saturday preseason game day. Greatly appreciate you coming through tonight, and I appreciate all the everydayers who come through every single day. Of course, this is your daily podcast covering the Washington Commanders, and if you haven't already, you can subscribe for YouTube, where you may be watching this premiere. But if you're watching later or you're listening later, you can subscribe wherever you're listening to today's episode, in which we're going to cover our 3 stars from the preseason game. We're going to talk about Jayden Daniels being solid again in this game, even though Washington fell to the Miami Dolphins 13-6, and we're going to talk about how that game went down. Certainly not everything rainbows and sunshine and puppy dogs, but if you want to discuss this or anything Washington Commanders related, all you got to do is send me a text message, and you can do that by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Become a Locked On Commanders insider today, and you can text back and forth with me, questions, topics, conversations. We've got insider exclusive Zoom conferences that insiders have been enjoying. Then, of course, I'm texting you all throughout the game while we're watching the Washington Commanders face off against the Miami Dolphins. Again, join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders to get started on that today. So 13-6 final score here in Miami in Hard Rock Stadium. First time I've ever been to the city of Miami. First time I have ever been to Hard Rock Stadium. And I got to say, it was an enjoyable time. I'm ready to get back to Virginia, to be quite honest with you, but not necessarily a lost trip. And Dan Quinn kind of echoed that same sentiment, even though he wanted to get that win. The Washington Commanders certainly made it interesting there at the end, nearly getting what could have been a game-tying touchdown and extra point. Hopefully, it would have been a game-winning or losing touchdown and 2-point conversion, right? Because as much as we love football, I don't think anybody really wants a whole lot of preseason overtime competitions. Unfortunately, the final pass of the game from Trace McSorley falls incomplete, and the Washington Commanders walk out with a 13-6 loss. But I think the biggest takeaway you have to take from this preseason game is the fact that Jayden Daniels continues to be very, very solid. So we're going to start off this postcast episode talking about our eye on the Tiger. Game number 2. He got 2 drives in this game. Started off with the ball just like he did in New Jersey against the Jets. Started off with the ball on offense, and this time no touchdown, but he does complete 5 of his 7 pass attempts, collects 46 yards in the process, has completions to Terry McLaurin, De'Ami Brown, lots of outbreaking routes, lots of hitches. Dan Quinn was asked in the postgame press conference if that was by design. That was the intent, because those are also quick executing passes, balls where Jayden Daniels can get those passes out of his hands very quickly, throw with anticipation, which he has done exceptionally here in training camp and the preseason. Dan said not necessarily that was the plan. It just kind of is how everything went out. And look, it was effective, right? The Washington Commanders were driving down the field, certainly got into field goal range. Unfortunately, Riley Patterson, the kicker, missing the field goal to give that could have given Washington an early 3-0 lead. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. Drive number 2 came back out 5 for 5, completed all 5 of his passes. So here's what's interesting, because I've been charting all of the training camp throwing sessions and 11 on 11s. And there have been some days where we've got like 80%, 85%. And certainly there's been some 69%, 65% days as well. But on those high days, I get the occasional comment from a Commanders fan who maybe was a Drake May guy during the pre-draft process. And that's certainly fair. But who says, well, it's practice, or well, it's this, or well, it's that. Well, 5 for 5 on this next drive. Again, 10 for 12 total on the day, 32 yards in that second drive, again, producing a scoring opportunity for his team. And that time they were able to capitalize and get the field goal from Riley Patterson. Hat tip to Nikki Javala of the Washington Post, because she did the math for me. So Jayden Daniels, again, on the day, 10 for 12, 83.3%, 78 yards, 93.8 quarterback rating, which would have been better with a touchdown, which Jayden, again, said that, coming out of this game, that's kind of something he wants himself and the offense to be able to do, is close out drives more effectively. And I think everybody would want to see that as well. But also 2 carries for 13 yards. In the 2 preseason games, though, Nikki went ahead and did the math for us. 12 for 15, that's 80% completion rate, 123 passing yards, 3 carries, 16 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. No turnovers. No turnovers. Not even, I mean, I can't speak for PFF, who likes to do turnover-worthy grades or plays, but not even a turnover-worthy play that I can recollect in my mind. That is exceptional quarterback play in the NFL at any level. And, it is preseason, so let's take it with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that Jayden is going to be an MVP candidate or anything like that, but you want to talk about offensive rookie of the year potential, the potential to be a quarterback that can stabilize this organization. You're certainly seeing that potential here in the preseason. That's kind of the effective word there, right? Key plays of the game. So Jayden Daniels, who's kind of wrapping up the eye on the Tiger segment. Jayden Daniels certainly doing a lot of good things. Key play from tonight's loss, the missed field goals, right? You got misses by Riley Patterson from 49 yards, miss from 43 yards, did make from 46, did make from 38. So you like to see that. But any kicker who's making 50% of his kicks in an NFL game is not going to be doing it for long if you can't get that better. Riley Patterson had a really great day of practice Thursday. Coach Quinn talked about that with us as well. 6 for 6 in practice, 3 for 3, 50 plus. You just got to see that practice production put on the field. I think the play of the game for the Washington Commanders themselves, with 1st and 10 play at the Washington 30, Jeff Driscoll, backup quarterback. Actually, your 3rd string quarterback was playing 2nd string because Marcus Mariota was out of this competition. Jeff Driscoll running up the middle of the field to the Miami 29 for a gain of 41 yards. His first snap of the game. What a way to do it. Florida native, so back out here in the state of Florida with the Washington Commanders. So what a way to do that. So that is the play of the game. But we are not finished on this postcast episode. We have got news and we've got notes and we've got our 3 stars coming up right now on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's postcast episode, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. What are your self-care non-negotiables? Maybe when you go to the gym, you never skip leg day. Maybe you meditate every single day. Maybe you wake up and you do yoga every single morning. Whatever it is, you need to keep those things in your routine in order to keep yourself going healthy. And therapy day can be one of those days. When your schedule is packed, whether it's with kid activities or big work projects, or your friends and families are turning you every which way and pulling you in every direction, you need to make time for what makes you happy. And sometimes it's hard because we feel selfish doing the things that make us happy if they don't make other people happy at times. Well, talking to someone who has that third-party opinion or a view of your life and doesn't have a biased opinion about your life can really help you put things in perspective. So if you need to get that perspective and you need to start therapy and you're thinking of trying it, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Today's postcast episode of Locked On Commanders is also brought to you by LinkedIn. And when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role you're trying to fit. And that's why you need to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. But LinkedIn isn't just another job board. Instead, LinkedIn is going to help you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even people who aren't actively looking for jobs, but are willing to move for the perfect role. So in a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you're in the wrong place. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Join the 2.5 million small businesses using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen after every Washington Commanders game. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast, where you get daily insight into fantasy strategies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Rolling through this postcast episode again. This is a bonus episode. Going to do this after every game. It's going to be about 15 minutes long total, and then we'll come back and we're going to do some dives into some tape and some quotes and some comments and do a whole lot of fun things throughout the season. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting season one way or the other, no matter how this thing goes. First thing that I want to talk about with news and notes from today's game, right? Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson has been a big topic of conversation from the media, from the fan base, and Dan Quinn kind of clarified, which I'm really great. Donna Hopkins of Pro Football Plus is one who brought it up. I'm really happy she did because it was a topic I had on my phone that I wanted to talk to DQ about. I had actually planned on asking him the next time we're out at Ashburn. So I'm glad Donna got the ball rolling early. That the narrative on Jahan Dotson inside the building, the narrative on Jahan Dotson outside the building is not the same, in the sense that, yes, Jahan Dotson's role is not solidified. No, Jahan Dotson is not getting cut from the team. Dan Quinn did not say that, right? But this conversation of, is Jahan developing all the way, and is Jahan Dotson going to be this number 2 receiver, Terry McLaurin, has kind of turned into, is Jahan Dotson going to be cut by some people? I think most of the people that are around the team every single day are not steering into that narrative, but there are some people out there who have some influence and have some communication with people and are kind of steering things that way. So I kind of want to get that out there too. So I'm glad Dan Quinn talked about that and said, look, Jahan Dotson's got a lot of talent. He's going to be a very influential role for this team. I think basically what the bottom line is Jahan Dotson is, if you want to call it your first team slot receiver, you know what I mean? That's what you're talking about. Like Terry McLaurin's got his spot. Jahan Dotson's getting a lot of first team slot work, right? So a lot of times we consider that the third receiver. But at the end of the day, it's all about how can he, as a receiver, be the most effective player for this team. So Jahan needs to play in the slot. Doesn't matter if you pencil it in as number 2 or number 3. If he's effective, that's what's most important. Now that other receiver spot that we commonly refer to as the second receiver spot is, De'Ami Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus. Honestly, I'm starting to look at De'Ami Brown maybe having the edge in that, even though I think Olamide Zaccheaus has had the more consistent production in practice. I think De'Ami Brown is showing a lot of things that can have him kind of penciled into that spot. Now, where the rubber is going to meet the road in this conversation for people is when they go to receivers, who's on the field, right? And that's not something that we've seen a lot of, and it's not something that I think we're going to see a lot of during the season. But I think that's kind of where people are going to look at it and say, okay, well, if there's 2 receivers on the field and Jahan's not one of them, then he's not the number 2, and that's a problem for a first-round pick. But I would argue back on that, and again, I don't know if it's going to happen, but if at the end of the season, Terry McLaurin leads this team in receiving and Jahan Dotson is second in this team in receiving, whether he's on the field in 2 receiver sets or not, you're pretty happy with that production, right? So moving on from that conversation, defensive tackles Fidarian Mathis and Norrell Pollard got the first team reps today, with Jonathan Allen, Duron Payne both sitting out of today's game. Linebacker Bobby Wagner also did not play. Michael Walker was in with Frankie Louver at the linebacker position with Bobby Wagner out, so he's the one who got those first team reps. Dominique Hampton, safety out of Washington. I told you in a previous episode, every day he's been getting linebacker reps at practice, got linebacker reps today in the game with the second team. And what's interesting and what you love about a guy like this, right, is you see him line up in that linebacker's position in the box, but then there were also reps where he's back there as your deep safety. He has that versatility. Derek Forrest back in action for the first time this season. I got to speak to him, not on video, only on audio, but I'm going to write an article about his first game action back on the field this season for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And then Michael Davis in with the second team. Honestly, looked a little rough in a couple of zone scheme calls that he had to play in early on. I got to go back into the tape and dive into it because those things can be deceiving at first look, but did not look like he was having a great day out there, and certainly had more than just a couple of reps. So want to dive deeper into that, but I'm going to keep an eye on him, and that's going to be something we talk about in our tape review episode coming up later on in the beginning of the week. Our 3 stars of the game here for the Washington Commanders. Yes, they lost the game, but we're still going to go through 3 stars, hockey style, 3rd star, 2nd star, 1st star is the biggest star. Star number 3, Tyler Owens, undrafted free agent safety. One of my favorite guys. Wears number 40 for your Washington Commanders. 3 tackles, had a tackle for loss. 1 solid stop that would have been a 4th tackle, was erased by an unfortunate penalty, so he doesn't get credit for it in the stat box. But Tyler Owens was all over the field, making plays for his defense. He's a guy that I do plan on asking Dan Quinn about as we get back to practice as well, and once he gets an opportunity to break down the tape. Star number 2, Jamin Davis. You look at the stat box, right? 1 tackle, 1 sack. Oh, bravo. But you know what? That sack was a forced fumble, it was a strip sack, and it's the first takeaway of the year for the Washington Commanders. Now, Dan Quinn said, and he actually got so emotional, I don't want to say emotional, but he got so anticipatory into answering my question. They started answering my question about the takeaways before he even got it finished, but he was on the right track, so it's okay. Basically, what I was asking him is, you finally got a takeaway. Are you happy with that, or are you still unhappy with the amount of turnovers your defense is causing through 2 games? He's not happy with it. He wants more, but you do love seeing a guy like Jamin Davis go out there and do his thing and get that strip sack. I know a lot of people were very, very happy for him. And star number 1, it's got to be Jayden Daniels. I think it's going to be Jayden Daniels in a lot of games, and that's okay. 2 preseason games, again, 80% completion rate, 123 yards through the air, 3 carries, 16 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Yes, he got hit today. No, he did not get injured. Yes, Dan Quinn told him, you need to slide, you need to get down. He acknowledged that's kind of an ongoing battle. He wants to use his gifts. He knows he needs to protect himself, Where is that line? He's going to continue fighting to find that line. But in the meantime, we're all going to enjoy watching him play, develop, and produce, hoping that we're going to get to see it again against New England Patriots as they wrap up the preseason. Dan Quinn said he does not have a decision right now on who will play that final preseason game and who will not. So we'll keep an eye out for that as well. And then we'll be right back at it next Sunday from what used to be FedEx Field, Commander Field, right now, prime time again. So we'll be back for another live episode of that after that game. But look, we've got 5 episodes to go from now to then. So make sure you're coming through for all of that. In the meantime, if you got questions or comments, all you got to do is text them to me. Join subtext.com/LockedOnCommanders. Become an insider today, and you can talk one-on-one with me just like we are here on the episode. Thank you for making Locked On Commanders your first listen of the day. Next, check out Locked On Fantasy Football for the Locked On Commanders podcast. Again, thanks for coming through every day. Thanks for coming through every single day. And until we speak again, if you're out and about, please be safe, be kind. And I will see you next time back in Virginia for another episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.